I'm alive. How am I alive? It all still feels so surreal. And yet I know it happened. My ripped dress and the cuts on my knees where I hit the ground when they pushed me down in front of Jesus are proof that it's true. But my brain and my heart are still trying to figure out what happened yesterday. Have you ever felt that no one sees you? That mob sure didn't. They just called me the woman or the woman caught in adultery. But it started long before that. I've been married for quite a few years to a man I loved deeply. When we first got married, he was full of romance as we fell in love with each other. But somewhere over the years, I faded into the background. As time wore on, as his business deals got bigger, I realized that I was no longer the center of his world, or really even a part of it. He became colder, more indifferent, and at the same time more controlling. So I learned to make myself small and unnoticeable to save myself the heartbreak of seeking a relationship that I was no longer going to have. And then one day, when I was in the market, I walked by the carpenter's shop and his beautiful work caught my eye. As I browsed through his offerings, we began to talk and I found myself drawn in. He was kind to me and complimented my eye for the details. We laughed together, something I hadn't done in a long time. I found myself going back to that shop each time that I was in the market because within its bounds I could be myself again. How was I to know that it was all built on a lie? And that I was just a pawn in the game of this man and the ones who paid him. Yesterday, after many weeks of frequenting the carpenter's shop, something changed. Although we had been becoming close, we had never crossed the bounds of impropriety. Until yesterday, he reached out and kissed me. I was taken aback and tried to step away, but he whispered that he'd been thinking about doing this since the first day we met and held me closer so that I could not get away. He took me into the back room. My head was spinning. In one sense, it felt so right to be here with someone who saw me and my needs. And on the other hand, I knew that what we were doing could get us both in trouble with the authorities. But never in my wildest imagination did I think they would show up, though. And yet they did. Just as we were finishing, a group of religious authorities, the scribes and Pharisees, walked into the room. Almost with glee, they accused me and pulled me to my feet. As they dragged me towards the door, I begged for the dignity of putting on my dress, and they did allow me that small favor. As I went back for it, it was then that I realized that the carpenter was in on it. The law states that both of us should have been condemned, but only I was being arrested. Well, he was getting a purse full of coins for the trouble he had gone to in securing me. He had not really seen me at all, just the price he could get by cooperating with those in power. So they dragged me to the temple, although I did not know that that was where we were going at first. As we walked through the streets, all sorts of emotions ran through me. I was humiliated. Surely everyone would know why I was surrounded by the scribes and Pharisees. Surely everyone would talk about what I had done and make up their own stories to go along with it. I was frightened. Where were they taking me? And what would they do once I was there? I knew the sentence, but I could not bear to even think the words. And I was furious. How dare he make me think that he actually cared about me, only to line his own pockets? He was worse than my husband, a wolf in sheep's clothing. Was anyone actually safe to show my heart to anymore? And as my mind spun, underneath it all was the thought that I could not get away from, even as I tried so hard. They are going to kill me. They are going to throw stones at me, and they are going to keep doing it until I fall unconscious and eventually die. I am going to die surrounded by a crowd of people I don't know and who don't care about me at all. After the day I'd had, somehow that seemed fitting. So when we got to the temple, I was surprised when they shoved me down at the feet of a rabbi named Jesus. I'd seen him around town, but knew very little of him. Then I guess they thought that I'd make a better show if I was standing up for my sentence. So they pulled me to my feet before asking a question of the rabbi that I never thought they'd ask. What say you? They were placing my fate into his hands alone. Not that it was going to change much, I was sure, but it was an interesting turn of events. But as they asked their question, he ignored them. Stooping down in silence, he began to write in the sand. That silence stretched on forever, and it was deafening. I almost wished that he would just hurry up and speak my sentence so that we could get it over with. But in the silence, there was still a little glimmer of hope. Maybe he would be different. Eventually, after what seemed a lifetime, he stood up again and addressed the crowd. He didn't say that I should be stoned or that I shouldn't, just that the first one to throw should be the one who had not sinned. What kind of statement was that? And then he bent down and continued drawing in the sand. If anything, I think this silence was even louder than the first, and it lasted just as long. I dared not look at the crowd, so I kept my eyes firmly on the ground in front of me until I heard the first stone fall to the ground. Not thrown, fall, landing at the feet of one of the men who would accuse me. And then another, and another. One by one, they dropped their stones and walked away grumbling. When the last one had left, we lapsed back into silence again, and I was left with my thoughts. What had just happened? Was I free to go? Or was this man who had just saved me from the mob going to condemn me himself? Should I say thank you? Or were words just not enough? Almost as if he read my mind, he stood again and, reaching out with tender hands to lift my head so that I looked him in the eye, he asked, "Where are they?" Has no one condemned you? My voice trembled as I said with as much strength as I could muster, "No one, sir." It was the first time since those men burst into the back room of the shop that anyone had spoken to me. As I had stood on trial, no one had even asked me what had happened or how I had ended up there. And now this man, with an enigmatic way of answering the crowd, was finally asking me a question. In his eyes, I saw the true compassion, the true knowing that I had been looking for, as he told me that neither do I condemn you. Go your way, and from now on do not sin again. I'm not sure that I could trust it, but in that moment, I realized that I could breathe again, that I was not going to die today. And so I left. And there is much about yesterday that is still complicated. Am I safe with my husband now that he knows what I have done? What possessed the carpenter to betray me in that way after what I thought we were building was true friendship? Did I sin? Or was I set up to take the fall? Or is it both? How can I be angry and sad and relieved all at the same time? How is it that this Rabbi Jesus had such authority that those men who were so certain of my guilt simply turned and walked away? How is it that in his lack of condemnation, I felt the forgiveness of something greater than just a man? How am I still alive? So today I begin again. Yesterday I was a woman caught in adultery. Today I am simply a woman who is still here. I am seen. I am forgiven. I have been given the opportunity to begin again. So I am alive. How am I alive? I don't know, but I am.